Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be reviewing HYPER-5 on the Nintendo Switch. Now this game is a 2D side-scrolling shoot-'em-up, and it released on April 12th of 2023. It currently sells for $9.99 on the US eSHOP. The game is published by East Asia Soft, and it has an overall download size of 1.39 gigabytes. Now this game is promising to deliver a great 90s style arcade experience. And today in the review, we're going to figure out if it delivered just that. And as we jump into the review, don't forget that if you are liking the video, hit that like button. It's one of the best ways to help support the channel. Now storyline-wise for a shoot-'em-up, we actually do get a slight introduction. You are basically piloting the deep space scout ship HYPER-5. You receive a distress signal and decide to respond immediately, throwing you directly into battle. Now, although they don't really flesh out the storyline too deeply, what is really interesting here is you do get various cutscenes throughout the levels, with an overlapping computerized voice that is basically introducing your next threat. And although, as I previously mentioned, this really doesn't do anything to help deepen the storyline, it really does sell that promised 90s arcade vibe. And although the animations throughout these different cutscenes was maybe not stellar, it really did help hype up the action and the bigger moments and boss fights. So now if we jump into the gameplay. Now the basics of the gameplay here are very much what you would expect from a 2.5D side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. However, where this game truly shines are in the various playstyles that it's offering. Now most of my time was spent playing through the campaign mode, which I would say is the main mode that they're trying to sell here. However, no matter what mode of play you're actually choosing, the game also offers you two different gameplay styles. One offering a more casual experience with lower damage, a second one offering a higher challenge. Now this is something that I truly appreciate in shoot-'em-ups because not everyone will be an experienced player, and this makes this game a very approachable one even for someone playing their first ever shoot-'em-up. Now the control of the ship is also the same across all gameplay modes. You'll be moving your ship using the left analog stick, and you'll have three different weapons available to you. You'll generally have a primary weapon which has a high refresh rate, however lower damage. A secondary weapon which is generally missiles that will have a lower refresh rate, however higher damage. And lastly, a special weapon that they refer to as the Tech Bay, which will generally have the highest damage overall, however will have a limited use with an energy bar that can be refreshed through power-ups. Now in the campaign mode, you'll actually have to unlock the various weapons, and you'll be able to choose your loadout before each and every level. You'll also be acquiring collectibles from fallen enemies, which you can later use to upgrade each individual weapon. But that's not all you can upgrade. You can also upgrade the movement speed of the ship, as well as how much damage you can take. And there are an enormous amount of combinations of weaponry that you can use and really tailor to each individual playstyle. Now this upgrade system is another thing that makes this game, in my opinion, very approachable. A more experienced player will most likely be able to blast through the 5 available levels without having to grind for too many upgrades, while a newcomer to the genre will simply have to go through the stages on multiple occasions collecting power-ups till they can get their ship and weapons powerful enough to make it to the next level. For a first playthrough, I strongly recommend playing in campaign mode. It's a great way to get a lay of the land. Now for those of you looking for a more streamlined and challenging experience, there is arcade mode also available. Now for the arcade playthrough, you will get to select your original loadout based on what you've unlocked so far. However, you'll have to acquire the upgrades through drops from killing enemies throughout the levels. However, at the same time, it does remove a lot of the grindiness of the campaign mode. And lastly, for those of you looking for the ultimate challenge, there's even a time trial mode, which not only focuses on being able to play through the game, but how fast you can actually do it. And both arcade and time trial mode are accompanied by their respective online leaderboards. Now from the perspective of a budget-priced shoot-'em-up, I was actually amazed by the variety of gameplay offered here. And the level of replayability here is immense, especially for someone who would enjoy playing through campaign mode with different weapon loadouts. And trust me, depending on which weapons you're using, the experience can be a totally different one. Now on the flip side, where I was disappointed a little bit here, however, is the balance among the 5 different levels. I found that the first 4 levels of the game were actually relatively easy to play through, and I only died once among all 4 of those levels. Then when I got to level 5, the level number 1 is 4 times longer than any of the previous levels, and that one took me at least a dozen tries. Now I have no problem with a difficult finale to a game. However, I do appreciate a more steady progression throughout the levels, as if each level is pushing your skills just a little bit higher and getting you ready for that more difficult finale. In this case, I just felt very little progression till that last level where I had to develop all my skills and techniques for dealing with the various enemy types. So hopefully in future endeavors, they'll be able to spread out the difficulty level a little more evenly, which would ultimately produce a more satisfying experience. Now if we jump into graphics and sound. Now on the visual side, once again this game really surprised me, offering some really beautiful 2.5D graphics, especially at such a budget price point. The level designs themselves are very vibrant, with a lot of moving details in the background. Every level is also very visually distinct, and offers an overall different feeling. One's underwater, one's on the planet's surface, and so forth. Enemy designs are also very well done, making it very easy to distinguish rapidly each different enemy type. Where I did have some issues, however, on the graphics side is first of all the issue that pretty much plagues every 2.5D shoot 'em up, where sometimes it was very different to tell what was in the background and what was in the foreground. Meaning that sometimes you'll take damage from an enemy thinking that it was in the background, and sometimes you'll dodge unnecessarily an obstacle that's actually part of the background. This wasn't overly prevalent throughout the game, however, there are definitely certain levels and certain areas where it did come up a little more often. And the second issue on the visual side, and I did point it to a little bit earlier, is although the cutscenes were greatly appreciated, some of the animations at certain points were a little wonky. And especially during the bigger explosion scenes, there were also some frame rate drops. However, overall, these being during cutscenes, they didn't really affect the gameplay. Now on the sound side, you would have what I would call a very solid soundtrack. The music definitely shifts in pace with the action and does help overall enhance the experience. However, at least for me, none of the tracks would exactly be what I call memorable. They are good, solid tracks that serve their purpose, just nothing more. Now we come to the verdict, and if this is one of the first reviews of mine you're watching, my full review scale is available down below in the description of the video. And in the case of HYPER-5 on the Nintendo Switch, I'm going to be giving this game a 7.5, putting it at the high end of a good game. Overall, at a $10 price point, you're getting a very solid and good shoot 'em up experience. It has some very nice visuals and a strong 90s arcade vibe, and one that also offers a huge amount of replayability. And the primary thing holding this game back from being a great game is some pacing and balance issues. But now I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments down below, are you going to be picking up HYPER-5 on the Nintendo Switch? And don't forget, on the way out, if you did like the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and click on that notification bell so you know when all my future content comes out. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.